Thank you for watching this Last Mile Profits video.
Royal Mail has ambitious plans for a locker network in the UK. Will this disrupt the current situation? Watch on to find out more.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadient.
Gary, Daniel Kretinsky has said that he wants to have 20,000 lockers in the UK. And it looks like he's really pushing forward with a plan to make it happen. You got a view?
Yeah, I mean, I think the announcement was back over the summer, I think, that he was going to do, or going to encourage Royal Mail to do 20,000. That was before his takeover bid was successful and ruled secure and valid by the British government, which has now happened. Obviously, Quadient have got a contract with Royal Mail for several thousand lockers, so they're going to use several thousand of Quadient agnostic lockers. So we always knew they were going to do more. And that's the obvious thing. You know, there are other networks around, but in our heart of hearts, we knew that Royal Mail were going to eventually do their own.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it looks like they're really sort of going full steam ahead with various options. So we've got the Quadient option. They're buying, as far as I understand, traditional lockers from Modern Expo now, and there's been a lot of stuff in LinkedIn on that. And apparently there's a birdie that told me that there has been a tender for, let's say, next-gen lockers as well. So looks like it's full steam ahead on all fronts.
Yeah, so I think this is actually going to be what you're going to see. This is a joined-up approach by IDS. As you're probably aware, IDS, International Distribution Solutions, they are the holding company for Royal Mail and GLS. GLS are moving in a pan-European way with lockers. And I think there's going to be a joined-up approach from IDS. In fact, there's a new guy at Royal Mail who's been appointed managing director of a part of the business called Locker Lab. And Locker Lab is the joint effort between Royal Mail and GLS to bring lockers across the IDS group in a uniform, maybe slightly uniform way across the whole of Europe.
I think this is actually, I mean, from the UK perspective and Royal Mail perspective, it's important because, you know, as we discussed in several prior videos, they're in a situation where their traditional network, the post office, which, just to remind everyone, is independent from Royal Mail, has now opened up to the competition. And, you know, given the power behind parcel lockers, I guess they're trying to find a way to differentiate themselves and to have an alternative. So that's the UK scenario. And then in Europe, the reality is the two big networks in terms of coverage, which are DPD and GLS. I think DPD has been slow with lockers. They're stronger still on PUDOs, but they do have the coverage in out of home. But GLS has always been a step behind. So I think, you know, it's a good move. The question, of course, is at the end of the day, can they move fast enough? And is it not too late to do it alone?
Well, I think the bigger question for me is, will they fill them? I mean, this is a very confident step to put. I mean, that's a 3-tower system from Modern Expo that they showed in the photograph outside Mount Pleasant, 6 columns, if you want to call it that, probably 40 doors, maybe more than 40 doors. You're going to need 25, 30 parcels every day to go through that to get a return on investment that's going to be done in a decent period of time. So that's showing bold confidence they're going to fill them. You could argue that the original move they did with Quadient was to rent one column or to take one column. So a partial share of a locker is a kind of toe in the market. This is a fully fledged, full commitment that they think their out-of-home strategy is going to fill 20,000 lockers times 25 a day. If you're faster at maths than me, that's what, 500,000 a day, 2.5 million a week. 125 million a year. That's a huge out-of-home volume that you're going to try and chase down to get your ROI.
And I think, and that was the point that I made, that, you know, are they going to be able to make this work? Because for lockers to work, you need, on one hand, you need the density of machines, i.e. proximity. And on the other hand, you need the parcels, because there's nothing that burns cash more than an empty locker. But then, you know, to your point, Gary, the other challenge is this, that actually small lockers are very difficult to make as economically viable as a large locker. So one of the reasons for Impost's incredible EBITDA is they're able to drop off several tens of parcels per stop, which, of course, if you've got a very small locker, you can't do. So, you know, I think
but they've also got 110,000 postmen that need stuff to deliver as well. If you starve that huge man engine of delivery of volume and force it into lockers. InPost don't have home delivery in many of their markets. They're concentrated on lockers, so they can force volume into the lockers. So this is a bit of a tightrope for Royal Mail, I think.
Well, unless, of course, and this comes back to another point, Gary, we're coming up with a lot of stuff today, aren't we? But the other point is, at some stage, can the universal service obligation be moved to cover out of home for perhaps people who are not elderly or have some kind of disability, which makes it, impossible for them to go to the locker?
No idea. I mean, with the Royal Mail's new owner, there's some strong pledges have had to be made in terms of protecting the USO, keeping the brand, staying head office in the UK. Long list of things that have been promised. So I'm not sure how rapid some of these broader brush changes can be, but certainly there's money being poured into out of home at Royal Mail and bringing volume into their own infrastructure rather than going through the post office infrastructure. And for me, that's very interesting as well.
I think we're aligned. And I think, as you identified earlier, there's also the question that you've effectively got two networks. So you've got GLS, which is at the moment primarily Europe, and you've got Royal Mail, the UK. Let's observe carefully. We'd love to have comments below because I think this is a hot topic. And this really could change the dynamics in the UK because up until now, it's been, primarily Amazon, then InPost, then Quadient came into the picture. And now, this is quite a gutsy move. And then Europe, of course, historically, GLS was not the powerhouse of parcel locker, network implementation. So please comment below. Also, if you've liked the video, please click subscribe and like. And looking forward, probably, Gary, I think we're going to be coming back to this topic at some stage in the future.
It's very seldom we get more than 3 or 4 of these videos made without Royal Mail being the topic. They seem to dominate the news and definitely dominate our attention a little.
Thanks, Gary.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadient.